Okay, look at the Torah. It's Matis Masei. Let's learn the Masei, which is a very famous Maimer of the Alter Rebbe. 176, first column. The pasuk says, "Eila Masei b'nei Yisrael." These are the journeys of the Yidden Asher Yotzim Eretz Mitzrayim l'Tzevesim. That left Mitzrayim and their hosts b'yad Moshe v'Aaron, in the hand of Moshe v'Aaron. Okay, the pasuk says these are the journeys of the Jews going out of Egypt. The Havin Yinalei Eila Masei Lashon Rabim. The Chayra, it says the word Masei plural. Going out of Egypt took one journey. You got out of Egypt, you're out of Egypt. The pasuk says these are the journeys that the Jews left Egypt. The Chayra, going out of Egypt is one journey, not journeys plural. Uksiv, and it says Asher Yotzim Eretz Mitzrayim. But Meretz Mitzrayim, going out of Egypt, is Rak Yitziv and Nesiyah Rishayna. There's only one going out in one journey. When they went from Ramses to Sukkos, so that's going out of Egypt already. So why does it say the word Masei plural? Also, what does it say in the hands of Moshe and Aaron? So they left Egypt. Why is it important to know Moshe and Aaron were the ones that did it? Also, a lot of the journeys were after Aaron passed away already. So Aaron passed away. They didn't go out with Moshe and Aaron. They just went out with Moshe. So why is it relevant to say Moshe and Aaron? Now that all the journeys were not with Aaron. Some of them weren't. To understand all the 42 journeys. They traveled, they camped, they traveled, they camped. Your enemies will run away from you. And when it says when you camped, it says Shuv Hashem v'Iken Nesiyosam Hayul. And the whole purpose was to come to Yardin Yerech, to the other side of Eretz Yisrael. We need to understand what these journeys are all about. So number one, there was only one journey going out of Egypt. Why does it say plural? Secondly, why does it say B'yad Moshe v'Aaron, especially when many journeys were after Aaron passed away? And B'chlal, to understand what these journeys are all about. So he says, in Amid b'shahochu b'nei Yisrael, the journeys at the desert that the Yidden went out, Nikr Midbar Ha'amim, is called the desert of the nations. The 40 years in the desert was called the Midbar Ha'amim. Or it says, Amalich Chobam Midbar. Hashem led you in the desert, Nochosh Sara Va'akrav. Snakes, scorpions, and all these different dangerous things. Shekol HaKlipas Mekabel Chayusim Min HaMidbar Anal. Says in Kabbalah that all the klipa, midbar represents evil. Number one, nothing grows in the desert, so there's no growth of kedusha. Secondly, as it says in the Chumash, the midbar was full of nachash sarav agav, snakes and scorpions and other terrible creatures that the clouds took care of. So nachash is the original snake that caused Eitz Hadas. Nachash, we learned this many times. The Gemara says the venom of a nachash, of a snake, is warm. Akra, of a scorpion, it's cold. So there's coldness to Yiddishkeit, warm heat, enthusiasm to worldly things. So midbar basically is the source of all evil. Yeah?
Seraphim?
Huh?
Seraphim, what is their venom?
Seraphim is also burning type of sreifa of evil, fire of evil.
But yet we receive the Torah in Midbar.
Dafke in the Midbar. Correct. Knesset Yisrael. Knesset Yisrael is called Rachel Mevakal Banel. Rachel is crying for her children. Okay. Rachel Mevakal Banel. Ksiv Kerachel Lefnei Gezen Alam. Kol HaBehemes Ein HaNigzazim Kimer Echail. The only animals that you shear the wool is lambs. From all the animals, you only shear a lamb. V'gam shemanicha satzman ligazis. Not only that, but it allows itself to be sheared It doesn't kick about it. It lets you shear the wool. So he says like this. What? Yeah, but it's all the same family. There's not oxen, not bulls, not you know. The Indian is like this. It says, Hashem's kingdom rules everything, shafil kulam, everything, including evil. Hashem, your kingdom rules everything. Everything means everything, even evil. Which means even evil gets its sustenance from Hashem. Gets their nourishment from the level of Malchus. We don't see the bittul of them to Kedusha. Because they get their nourishment from Elokus only like hair. As I explained, hair also gets nourishment, that's why it grows. But hair is such a minimal amount of chayas from the person, life from the person. If you cut the hair, it doesn't hurt. You cut your finger, it's going to hurt. You cut the hair, it doesn't hurt. You pull the hair, it's going to hurt because you're still connected. You're still getting chayas. But it's so minimal. So now the Rebbe is saying like this. Evil has to live from Kedusha. It must sustain itself from Kedusha. If not, it can't exist. But the level of Kedusha that it gets is like hair. Very, very minimal. Extremely minimal.
It's like a leech.
Yeah. Or Kamei Lamasha. Shasai the same Bechinas Chitzein. Just like a person. Hair is the most external level. It's not from the essence. Like we see clearly, there's no pain whatsoever. From the cutting of the hair, there's no pain, which means there's minimal chayis. But it's nourished from the person, but it's very limited. It comes to a tzimtzum, so to speak. Is the same thing. All evil forces in the world they don't get their chayis from the essence of Kedusha, from the pnimius, from the revealed level of Kedusha, only the level of hair, and even that, it's like they get the chayis even after it's cut, which is minimal of the minimal. Like it says, she becomes silence. The speech of the 10 utterances is even, in other words, the 10 utterances, we learned in Sheikhet Vamuna, the 10 utterances give life to the world. He gives life to the world. But some things are openly from the 10 utterances. Some things we learned in Sheikhet Vamuna is numerical values, acronyms, this, and that's not open chayis. Like a table, it doesn't say table in Asar Maimoris. Because the word shulchan is there, but it's through acronyms and numerical values and exchanging of letters and so on. So he says, that even these levels of klipa get the nourishment from the 10 utterances. That's what keeps the world existence, Malchus. Right? Malchus is the speech that Hashem created the world with, and the learned in Sheikhet Vamuna has to be continuous creation. But their evil's existence from the 10 utterances is extremely, extremely minimal. Kiyamai de lavush and v'saidus. Hamastidim that conceal abachinas hadibur. Scams are unbelievable. V'hinei. Okay, so he says like this. Evil, midbar, gets its nourishment from total evil. From the total evil. Yeah, there's no... Yeah, it gets its chayis from Kedusha, but in such a limited level like here, you don't even realize it.
Can you explain this line? I don't understand that.
What?
It says she'in become things.
Yeah, they don't get chayis in the Sodom Maimaris Atzmam from the open 10 utterances only through the exchanging of letter like here.
And 2 lines up, he said he gets it from the essence.
Yeah, they get it from everything exists.
Cyrus don't come from.
Listen a second. Everything comes from the essence of Hashem. The chayis of the hair also comes from the neshama, but it goes through a very limited tzimtzum process.
So why does he mention essence? Or you should mention that it comes from the most tzimtzum.
That's what he says. That even though it comes from Hashem, the chayis that goes through a tzimtzum comes from whom?
Everything comes from Hashem.
Okay. So he says it comes from the essence of Hashem, but you don't get it openly. He gets it through millions and trillions of tzimtzum and like here. Here it gets its chayis from the neshama, but it goes through the tzimtzum process. V'nei kol amembeis masois. What is okay? So you have like this. Now Rebbe is going to explain. Life is the journeys. You're going through a midbar. Going through a desert of life. This life is full of dangerous things. Snakes, scorpions, nochar, soda, v'akrav, tzimoyin Hashem, beimoyim. There's no kedusha at all in this life. Now, the 42 journeys, what would happen, the purpose in the midbar? So it said, Vayibin se'arein, kum Hashem, yilfutzei v'echa, all your enemies will run away, right? And Benuchayema, when then you rest. So the whole concept in the midbar was Vayisu Vayachanu, Vayisu Vayachanu, 42 times. They traveled, they camped. They traveled, they camped. Now, what was the purpose of the traveling? To get rid of all the evil forces. Your enemies are going to run away from you. That was the purpose of the journeys in the midbar. As a preparation for the Yidden to go into Eretz Yisrael, they had to get rid of Klippa, you had to get rid of the evil. And therefore Hashem made that they went in the desert 40 years, not stam only as a punishment. Because again, punishment in Torah is not punishment. It's cleansing, it's preparation, it's purification. So the Yid, in order to go to Eretz Yisrael, they had to purify themselves 40 years in the desert. They call a members masois was that they should run away, that evil shouldn't have any nourishment. In other words, evil by nature has a very limited amount of nourishment. The Aveda of the Jew is to get rid of that minimal nourishment of evil. To starve it to death.
You want somebody to get rid of Klippa, you put him in a yeshiva. You don't put him in the middle of a desert. I mean, you want somebody who has Klippa, you put him in a Kedusha environment so he can pick up Kedusha.
A person is born into the world. What is the purpose? Yira Tzayra Chaliyah. Yes, Yira B'tachtain. That Yerida Tzayra Chaliyah. Now, how do you have this Yerida? How do you make the Aliyah? And what happens? The challenges. Correct?
Yes.
Now, the purpose is, like we learned in the other Maimon, Gan Eden, you cannot do all this stuff. Right? Where are the challenges? Not in Gan Eden. Challenges of life are in this world. The essence, the essential inyan that the neshama is in a body is already midbar. A body, just by itself, yeah? Without any averis. A body is a midbar. For neshama, it's limited, concealed, it's not functionable. Okay? So the whole inyan of life is to go out of Mitzrayim, i.e. you're born, you go through this is what the Baal Shem Tov said. You go through, this is what the Alter Rebbe is saying here. You go through the 42 journeys of life, through the desert. Now, in this desert process, just like before the Jews went into Eretz Yisrael, they had to go through the midbar. Yes? They had to have a midbar, both opposite things. From one side in the midbar, they were able to sit and learn and daven a whole day. They had nothing to do with world. From the opposite side was a midbar. They had to get rid of all the evil. Correct? Now, in order to tackle a midbar, you need to have midbar. The ease of learning and davening. In life, it's the same thing. Before you go into Eretz Yisrael, which meant dealing with world, yes, you first have to have the midbar. You first have to prepare yourself 40 years of learning and davening and all that you don't get affected by the world of Eretz Yisrael. Meaning having to work for a living, 6 years plowing. So, generally speaking, before neshama comes down, it's taught the entire Torah. That allows it, when it's born, to continue learning Torah. Now, the Rabbi asks a question. All the Mepharshim ask the question. It says, Tinig b'mei, but the Gemara says, is taught the whole Torah. Then when it's born, the angel comes, in Yiddish it's called a schnell unter the nose, a whack under the nose, and he makes him forget it all, and he said, now go learn it yourself. So the question is, if we forget it, what's the purpose of teaching it to us? Okay? So the answer is, the fact that the person already learned Torah, that gives him the ability to learn Torah Hashem even in the body, even though you forget it. Now, therefore, first the neshama is taught Torah. Then it comes into the body. Now, okay, go in the Membeis Masois. Go in the 42 journeys of life until you come to Eretz Yisrael, right? Gan Eden. Dir v'tachteinu, Mashiach, whatever you want to call the Eretz Yisrael. It could be Gan Eden, it could be Bias Mashiach, it could be all that, different things. In life, first in the youth, you have to learn in yeshiva to prepare you to take on the world. When you get married and go, Dira v'tachtenim is when you're married and you have a parnasa and you have kids and all that stuff. On a daily basis, before you go to business, you have to learn and daven. Or daven and learn. So it's all that same journey. It's all the same thing. It's all the same thing. No. What is the tachlis? Tachlis is dira b'tachtenim or dira b'elyonim? Dira b'tachtenim is not when you sit in yeshiva and learn. That's dira b'elyonim. The tachlis is the journeys, because you can only came me'evel hayardim mizracha. You can only come through the journeys. In other words, who cares? Torah is not a history book. Torah is not a history book in any way whatsoever. What difference does it make for me and you that the Jews traveled 42 journeys in the Midbar? What halach is that relevant to? Torah is halach. Torah is guidance. Who cares the fact that they traveled 42 journeys? Does it really matter? Who cares? The answer is yes, it is a lesson. Because these are the 42 journeys of life.
It's going to happen to every one of us.
It's happening. You're born already.
No, I know, exactly the same.
Same 42 journeys. That's generally speaking, and then you have the details in each journey. Every person has their own journey.
What's any significance of 42?
Yeah, the Shem Mab. It's one of the names of Hashem. Whatever. Those are 42 journeys. We mentioned many times, generally speaking, there's 3 journeys. Hatch, match, and dispatch. No, then they come into Eretz Yisrael.
You die.